Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our coffee break webinar this afternoon. I'm Kathy Gregg. I'm a Managing Director with Treasury Strategies, and I'm joined here in Chicago this afternoon by Tony Carfang, also a Managing Director at Treasury Strategies. And we're here today to talk with you for a few minutes about NDepth, your new bank fee management solution. This is a product that we've been developing at Treasury Strategies that is solving a problem that historically has defied an easy solution. There have been solutions available out there, but they haven't been easy, and in some cases they haven't been reasonably priced either. But NDepth changes all that. We're going to take you through the high points of NDepth this afternoon and offer you a very attractive proposition for getting to know NDepth and using it. But before we start, let's take just a minute to see what you all are doing as far as managing your account analyses. We have just one single poll question for you today. And what we'd like to ask is what you do now in account analysis review. Do you just eyeball them? Do you actually use spreadsheets or another tool on a regular basis? Do you review them periodically when you have the time? Or do you not review them at all? It's just a cost of doing business, or your balances are sufficient to cover services so you don't need to review in your mind. Answer those questions, and while you're answering, I've got a couple of other things to just tell you about NDepth. So NDepth, our account analysis management tool, is well along in its development. At this point, we have 36 beta customers who are getting monthly reports and monthly benefits from NDepth. And we'll tell you in a minute a little bit about what they're telling us. We're in the last stages of fine-tuning this version of the product. And after today's conversation, we're going to invite you to be part of the final stage of development. How are we doing on our survey? Do we have findings yet? I guess we have to wait a couple more seconds to see the findings. So what we're going to do here is take you through some of the sample reports on NDepth. We're going to talk about how simple it is to use every month, and we'll wrap up by talking about the banks that are currently included. Okay, so do we have our findings? Joe says we have our findings. Okay, so about 60% of you, wow, this is a pretty big number, bigger than I would have expected, say you use spreadsheets or other tools regularly. And about the same number review when you have time and eyeball them, and a few of you admit to the fact that you're not doing anything at all. Okay, so thanks for answering that question. Let's keep diving a little bit further into our NDepth solution. Tony, why don't you talk to us about how we've approached this?
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. So as we work with our clients here at Treasury Strategies on getting a handle around those pesky analysis statements, one of the things we built into NDepth was the ability to translate these account analysis statements into understandable items and reports, which we're going to be showing you throughout the next 15 minutes here. Our clients like to analyze their spend over time, and many, although it's not easy to do with most current account analysis statements, look for variances in either volumes or pricing or earnings credits or whatever from month to month. NDepth makes that very easy. Because we're maintaining a large database of actual corporate users of banking services, we're able to provide some very interesting benchmarking information about volumes and prices and how they come together in terms of an overall bank proposition. And then last but not least, many of our clients are challenged with evaluating the benefits they get from their balances at their banks. Obviously, they want to optimize, the banks want to optimize, and NDepth provides the transparency needed to do that.
So I said earlier that this is a really easy to use solution, and it truly is. There's basically two steps. You upload and we download. All right, that's all it takes. Those of you who are using spreadsheets currently probably know how much time it's possible to put into getting your account analyses to the point where you can do even remotely comparable comparisons from bank to bank. So with NDepth, you upload your statements through a secure portal. And this is whether they're PDF statements or EDI statements. You don't have to have EDI to use NDepth. We can take either one. So you upload your statements, and then you download reports, both current month reports and year-to-date reports for all of the previous months you have in there, and that's as complicated as it gets. And the result here is obviously that this whole process is more efficient. It takes so much less of your time, and it lets you get into your banking services usage much more quickly than if you have to do all this analysis and standardization on your own, and contributes to more productive and robust relationships with your banks. I will add also that while currently reports are being delivered over the internet, email, or you're downloading them, by October 1st, you won't even have to download them. They'll all be available on our portal, so you'll be able to view everything online. Right now, as I mentioned earlier, we have 36 customers live on NDepth. It's going very, very well. We have room for more beta customers, and the beta customers are helping us with the final development of this offering. They're giving us feedback on the reports, the dashboards, the structure of the reports, the way the data is arrayed, other things that they would find useful in the product, and that's why we're looking for some more beta customers. Tony, let's talk about what our clients are saying.
Well, in line with what Kathy was saying about the feedback we're getting from our beta clients, as you can see here on this chart, you know, our beta clients span a variety of industry, a variety of company sizes. Whether companies are using one bank or 5 banks or more, they're finding a lot of benefit. Without reading through all of these testimonials, you know, we hear over and over again that our dashboards provide on 1, 2, or 3 pages a real nice snapshot of the entire banking relationship. In fact, several of our clients have told us that they upstream these up their chain of command to the CFO or CEO on a periodic basis, which frankly kind of surprised us, but gratifies us. Our clients are telling us that they can quickly get a handle on their overall spend and can eyeball to see if there are things that are out of line, but the important thing is they're able to do that in an informed way on an apples-to-apples basis, which ultimately then leads to meaningful conversations with their banks as well. And, you know, one of the nice things about NDepth is it provides transparency to both, you know, you all, the corporate users, as well as your bankers on what's actually happening in a relationship, and that results in a win-win for everybody involved. Now, one of the first comments here was about the dashboard and the usefulness of that. Kathy, why don't you take us through the dashboard?
So here we have a sample of one of the dashboard pages, and we've designed our dashboards to be good for people who like pictures, good for people who like numbers. These are all coming off of Tableau, which, if you are not familiar with it, is a really fabulous data visualization software package. You don't have to own or know how to use Tableau to get these reports from NDepth. They're already available for you. So what you see on this page, on this sample page, we've got summary of the services that are being used across all the relationships. We've rolled them up into product families, and you can visually get a grip on this right away. In the center of the page, we've got your wallet allocation. I love this chart. It basically compares the percent of the credit facility that each bank has with the percent of the service business that they have with the percent of the balances that they're receiving. So if you want to follow a strategy of leveling these things out so that banks who offer more of your credit wallet also get more of your services and balances, this is a great, quick way to see whether you're accomplishing those goals. And then we have a lot of trend line reports in NDepth. The trend in service fees is a sample on the right there. And as I said, you get the tabular version of the balance ECR services on the bottom. So the intention of these dashboards is a snapshot over all your bank relationships, something at a high enough and summary enough level that you can use to show Treasury senior management. Going into a little more detail about a couple of aspects of this, let's take a look at this net fees by bank table. This is a great way to take a look at, how you're matching up. For example, where I'm leaving the most of my balances versus what kind of ECRs I'm getting at those banks. So for this example, you see I've got my highest balances at Metro Bank, and they're like middle of the road in terms of the ECR I'm getting. So things could be far worse. It's not the best, but you know what? Maybe it works just fine. Under that wallet distribution report on the bottom, as I said earlier, boy, that gives you just in a visual picture the idea about whether you're balancing out how you're allocating balances, fees, and credit, or whether there are some really important inequities that you want to take care of.
Now, Kathy talked about the numbers view and the graphical view. I'm a numbers guy, but we're going to be showing some graphs here. We can see the spend by product, and in the top part of this graph, we see the overall spend of this sample company, with over 50% being spend for disbursements and reconciliation, with about 18% allocated to lockbox services and 13% allocated to wire transfer services. So you get one nice quick view of the total spend there. At the bottom, we actually see the breakout by bank. So visually, you can check. It looks like for First National, for example, almost all the spend is for lockbox, whereas at Bank Commerce, almost all the spend is for disbursements and reconciliations services. And at Bank 24, in this case, more than half the spend is devoted to wire. Again, this is an easy way, to see if this passes the SNFs test. Is this the way you actually want your services allocated? And frankly, as we've been presenting these to beta clients, it's amazing to see folks sit and look at these pie charts and say, wow, how did we get that lockbox out of Heritage Bank? Must have been through an acquisition or something. It's been fascinating. Now, on the next chart, we show the numbers view of the same. And as you can see here, we have three banks, 24, Commerce, and Metro, that are all spending, you're getting about $50,000 a month worth of spend, and First National and Heritage getting about $10,000. So as Kathy talked about how you think about allocating your wallet, you might look at a report like this and say, gee, should I spread out the spend more evenly and move services into First National or Heritage, or am I happy the way I am? Or frankly, if I eliminated one or both of those smaller relationships, could I get better pricing by moving these to banks where I already have a lot of volume? So this is just a sample of a couple you can do here with NDepth.
And of course, no package of reports like this complete without your historical views. We've got fees on top here, balances on the bottom. You take a look at those fee lines, they're nice and consistent, except for that big mountain in the green line in November. So what the heck went on with Metro Bank in November? Basically, the service fees doubled that month. Was that a mistake? Was that a legitimate end-of-year spike of some sort? Was there an operating problem that we weren't aware of in Treasury? Anyway, a report like this, when all the lines are nice and flat like they are down in the balances report, everything's happy, except when you see something that needs to be investigated. So those reports are really useful.
Now, one of my favorites is the analysis of balances and earnings credit rates, because this has gotten increasingly complicated. The compensation has gotten complicated. It's also complicated to speak. Okay, excuse me. But we have ledger and collected balances, as you see on your account analysis statements, and we break out both the earnings credits and the balance assessment fee. Many companies are unaware of how the balance assessment fee works. Some banks refer to this as a regulatory charge or a recovery fee or whatever. And it's an evolution of what used to include things like FDIC insurance premiums, but essentially it's an offset or charge for having balances at the bank, whereas earnings credit is a bonus for having balances at the bank. This chart puts both the earnings credits and the balance assessment fee in one place. Now it's interesting when you look at the effective rates at the bottom and you want to see what the net effective rate is, we've seen earnings credit rates of within the last couple of months in excess of 100 basis points, but the net effective rates along the bottom we've seen as low as minus 20 basis points, where a company with a lot of float at a bank has a high balance assessment fee. The balance assessment fees are based on ledger balances, whereas earnings credits are on collected balances. It all gets really complicated and mushy. NDepth straightens that out for you.
The next page shows one of the reports that our beta customers have told us they just love, and that's the variance report. What we have over in the far right-hand columns are basically either green or red colored variances, green being, in your favor, I spent less this month than last month, or used fewer items, and red being I spent more this month than last month. So the idea would be if there's a big red number, you got to dive down into it and see what's going on. So what's in that big red number, 1,075? So that says this month versus last month, in this particular line item, I spent almost $1,100 more than I did the previous month. Well, what is that item anyway? I went from 4 of them last month to 47 of them this month. Well, NDepth helps you figure out, despite what the bank might have called this, that this line item represents checks that are being presented without a match against your issuance tape. So why would you have 10 times more this month than you did last month? Was there a problem with the tape? Was there a problem with the data entry? Was there a lot of data missing? Again, these big variances can give Treasury people some quick ideas about what they need to dive into so that the problems don't recur month after month.
A lot of our clients are very interested in benchmarking the pricing of the services they get from their banks. And as we show in NDepth, this is just a fascinating chart because pricing is not one-dimensional as other services tend to view it. The price of lockbox is not just X cents or X dollars per item. There's really an all-in set of services you buy when you make deposits or when you do your disbursements and reconciliation. And the services, as we can see, are clearly a function of volume. We see these nice curved sloping lines here. These are actually out of the current NDepth database from our current users. The gold diamonds are the actual banks that this particular sample company is using for these various services. So if we look at, let's say the bottom left, lockbox, for example, the first diamond at a volume of less than 1,000 items a month, the all-in cost, including the images, the lockbox rental, the sorting, the return items, is about $4 an item. And while that might seem high, and that is the highest among all the banks that this particular sample company is using, for that volume, we're actually a below-average all-in cost. So if you're asking the question, is my account structure, are the services I'm buying and the relative cost that I'm paying for those services, am I okay? If that's your question, here is one easy glance to see that, that $4 an item, you're actually okay, you're good, you're happy with that. The next diamond in lockbox is right at the average, but then the high volume at lockbox is a little bit on the high end, and there could be a number of reasons why your all-in price is so high. In addition to the price the banks charge you, it may have something to do with the way your account is structured, the amount of information you're getting back from these lockboxes and everything. So there's a whole story behind every one of these charts that will help you get benefits and manage your relationships more effectively.
Okay, so let's bring this to a conclusion here. We've taken you through some of the high points of the kinds of reports that NDepth produces for you. And honestly, it's just as simple as I described it. You upload your account analyses, whether PDF or EDI, and we produce these reports for you. Now, the proposition we want to make for you is to sign up for the beta. We do have room for several more beta customers. And in order to sign up, you need to simply click, this is a PDF clickable link here. That takes you to the sign up page, and there you go. After you're signed up, you upload your account analyses through the secure protocol. What does it get you to be a beta customer? Here's the proposition. If you complete both the sign up and the upload of your first months of account analyses by October 1st, we will give you a 2-year subscription for up to 5 supported banks at no cost. That's a pretty good deal. Now, how can we do this? Why do we do this? It's because it's very important to us to have the feedback and input of beta customers. We need to have corporate customers using this to finalize the development for us. On the left here under the current column, we show the 9 banks that we're currently supporting, and the center column, the 9 banks that are in the process of being added on to NDepth. And by the end of the year, we will have all 50 top cash management banks available and supported. We're adding new banks in the order of their usage by our beta customers. So if one of your banks is on the in-process list, if you sign up, that's basically another vote for getting your in-process banks moved to the top of the list. So that's our proposition for you is sign on, upload, and 2 years free.
So in summary, to solve your account analysis issues and to actually get benefit and to enhance your banking relationships and improve the quality of that conversation, sign up for NDepth today. Click the link and sign up. And if you have any questions at all, call Jill Salgrad or any of the members of our NDepth team that we see here on the screen, and we look forward to having you sign up by October 1st, and hopefully seeing you and catching you at the AFP later that month. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Look forward to working with you.
Thanks for being on our coffee break.